Well, if you're into aliens, you're going to stop and maybe indulge me for a second here. You know, I was a person that did not believe much in aliens, that sort of thing, especially when I was young. I mean, it just, none of it made sense to me. And of course, they spent years pushing the topic as that it would not make sense. And therefore, everyday person just sort of went about their business and didn't really think it was possible. But then something comes along sometimes that just changes you and profoundly shocks you. And I like to think that I have a bit of a no bullshit detector. And, for me, it was really David Fravor's testimony. Every inch of it that came off the guy's face, I knew that the Tic Tac situation was not no bullshit situation. That was real deal, what he was chasing out there. And then that began a process of me obviously starting to come to light with a lot of things and going through these different things and thinking to myself, and anymore, I can honestly say, I think the question we're asking is all wrong. I don't think the question is, do aliens exist? I think the question we should be asking ourselves is, what do they eat? I think that's the actual question we should really be asking ourselves. And first, I'm going to preference this by saying, if you think what I think an alien probably would look like, if you want to know, sort of just look up pictures of J-Rod. And I believe J-Rod, if you believe that was a real story or not, the pictures I think are quite accurate with the testimony that the U.S. military personnel that was on Rogan gave the description of saying when he came across him in the field. And the guy yells when they went to render aid, when the craft or whatever went down thinking it was a military plane. They went to render aid, and the other guy in the passenger seat yells out, he's got no bleeping ears. Got no bleeping ears. And, so we go from there. Let me take a good hard look at that. And everything in the description, everything he labels out, it is the picture of J-Rod to a T. So unless he's just going off of the pictures he saw, and maybe that's somehow in his mind, it's possible. But beyond that, let's think beyond that for a second, and if they are real. Plus, I'm going to tie this into a situation right now that just pretty much everyone's talking about, and that's Epstein, and how I think this actually connects somehow. If we take a lot of the emails in the Epstein files, there is a ton of references to some form of cannibalism on some level, some selling of meats and different products that are labeled under different names and that sort of a thing. And then we go to the dinner that Robert Bigelow had with James Fox, who is the prominent director of things like The Program and stuff like that, who just says off a cuff, not on film, which would have been better to be on film, but not on film. Robert Bigelow says, they walk among us. Years later, not thinking as much about it, thinking that's crazy, doesn't really make sense. And then we go to Epstein Island, where there's guys who are being in trouble that, when you look at their net worth, it's $13.56 billion is their net worth. Is it possible they know some things or have direct hand knowledge of these sort of things? We don't know. We know there's a lot of references into the Epstein files on different sorts of food and that sort of stuff. We know that 330 gallons of acid was sent to the island after the indictments came down. And then we also have to ask ourselves, what is it really? And I really started thinking about it. And then it brought me back to Michael, I might get his name wrong, Haran. Anyway, he's another U.S. infantry soldier that was sent out on a mission, actually off of a U.S. naval ship. And they're searching, and they come across, there's a group of them, and they come across what appears to be black ops operatives dressed in all black that know more about the military than these guys do, and get them off their guard. They clearly walked into something. You should see this. You watch this kid tell this story. He looks like he's sweating profusely at every moment. I mean, it could just be the character or person, I don't know, but he sure looks like he's going through something. And then I think to myself, man, what else could it be out there that they're hiding, they don't want us to know about? Well, a part of his testimony is that he saw them, or working with something, but they have them up against the fence. They took their guns, their everything away. They put their military badges, took them, read them, all that sort of stuff. And part of what he said was he saw them loading bodies onto, in other words, a UFO. Why would they be loading bodies onto the UFO? I mean, that's pretty weird. And then even myself late at night, I'm out driving on the road and I'm thinking to myself, man, these deers are freaking everywhere, man. And I hit 2 this season alone, just door dashing in the middle of the night. And I can't help but to think, are we just deer? That's the real question. I mean, have we had it wrong this whole time? Are we actually just a food source that's overwhelmed all over the place? And sometimes they do cool things. Sometimes they build themselves in behind stuff. Sometimes they're just out running in the wild and doing crazy things, and they multiplied all over the place, and they get in the way, and sometimes they get in accidents, and sometimes they manage to live their whole lives peacefully in the woods. I don't know. But I think the real question sometimes that we should be asking is, what are they eating? What do you think?